Yo, have you ever heard of a war so massive and so intense it lasted 16 freaking years? Yeah. Not World War I. Not World War II. I'm talking about the Kiriji War, the longest and most explosive war in Nigerian history that you probably never learned about in school. This wasn't just some tribal beef. This was a full-on clash of kingdoms, legos, betrayals, and battles that would shake the entire Yoruba land to its core. Buckle up, cause this is about to get wild. Alright, picture this. It's the late 1800s. The British haven't fully taken over yet, but they're sniffing around, playing puppet master. Meanwhile, Yoruba land. It's in chaos. Alliances are breaking, kings are plotting, and warriors. They are sharpening their swords and loading up muskets. But how did it all start? It all goes back to the fall of the Oyo Empire. See, Oyo used to be that kingdom, rich, powerful, respected. But after years of internal corruption, slave raids, and pressure from the Fulani jihads up north, the empire crumbled. And when Oyo fell, a huge power vacuum sucked in every other Yoruba group. Everyone wanted a slice of the pie. That's when Ibadan steps up. These guys were the new power players. They weren't your typical royalty. Ibadan was built by warriors. Literally. Ex-soldiers, hunters, freedom fighters. They were hungry, fierce, and didn't take orders from any king. They started expanding. Fast. Taking control of towns and villages like it was monopoly. But here's the thing, other Yoruba groups. They weren't having it. Especially not the Ekiti and Ijesha people. They were like, hold up. Who put Ibadan in charge? And that's where the spark ignited. The Ekiti Parapo, which literally means Ekiti Confederation, was born. It was like Avengers Assemble, but make it Yoruba. All the smaller towns and kingdoms started linking up to push back against Ibadan domination. And the guy leading this resistance? Enter Fabunmi of Oke-Imesi. This man wasn't just a soldier, he was a fire starter. No joke. He kicked off the war by straight up murdering an Ibadan official who disrespected his people. And from that moment, boom. The war began. Like, for real for real. Now, the battles weren't your usual hit and run stuff. We are talking full-blown warfare. Trenches. Cannons. Muskets. And something you wouldn't expect, the telegrams. Yep, some of the Yoruba armies were sending messages over long distances using the new tech the British introduced. It was old school and high-tech at the same time. Ibadan, that fast, was running things. They had strong generals like Latasaisa and Balegan Ogborifon, warriors who lived and breathed battle. But the Ekiti Parapo? They had numbers, a heart, and eventually, serious backing. And here's where it gets spicy, enter the Ekiti Parapo alliance with Ilorin. Now, Ilorin was a different vibe entirely. Mostly Fulani and Muslim, but they had their own beef with Ibadan. It was like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and that made the war even more chaotic. Suddenly, you had a Yoruba civil war with outsiders jumping in. Wild. But the real turning point was when the Ekiti Parapo got guns. Big ones. Like modern European rifles. Shout out to the Portuguese and the French smugglers who saw an opportunity to make money. These weren't your grandfather's flintlocks. These were repeaters, a deadly, fast, and game-changing. And just like that, the balance of power started to shift. Ibadan found themselves losing ground. The once unstoppable war machine was suddenly on the defensive. And the Ekiti Parapo? They were hungry for victory. Town by town, they pushed forward. But the war wasn't just on the battlefield. It was in the politics too. Remember the British? Yet they were watching all this with binoculars and tea in hand. They hadn't fully colonized Yoruba land yet, but they were laying the groundwork. Missionaries were coming in. Trade routes were being secured. And a 16-year war? That was bad for business. So the Brits were like, alright, and that's enough of that. They stepped in not to help, but to stop the chaos. They started pressuring the Yoruba leaders to chill. Peace meetings were held. Letters exchanged. And slowly, the fire began to burn out. By 1886, the Kiriji War, named after the Kiriji sound of the cannons, finally came to an end. A truce was signed in the town of Imesi. The guns went silent. The dust settled. And Yoruba land? It would never be the same again. The war had drained everyone. Economies collapsed. Cities were ruined. Thousands had died. But out of the ashes came a new reality, one that the British were more than happy to take advantage of. Within a few years, colonial rule swept across the land. The Yoruba people, once independent and powerful, were now being ruled by foreigners who didn't care about the culture, the history, or the blood spilled on that land. But here's the thing, the Kiriji War wasn't just about fighting. It was about resistance, identity, pride. It was the story of people refusing to be conquered by each other or by anyone else. And even though it ended in exhaustion, it also laid the groundwork for future unity. Today, most people don't even know it happened. It's not in the movies. It's barely in the textbooks. But this was one of the most epic wars in African history. It had heroes, villains, twists, betrayals, and lessons we are still unpacking today. So next time someone says African history is boring, tell them about the 16-year clash where kingdoms fought for honor, legacy, and survival. Tell them about Fabunmi, about Ibadan, about the echo of the Kiriji cannons rolling across the hills of Yoruba land. Because this is our history. And it's anything but boring. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button if you just learned something new. Subscribe if you want more epic, untold stories from Africa's past, raw, real, and full of power. Catch you in the next one. Peace.